So, I want to talk about how I'm feeling right now because I just don't want to forget what I learned in this moment, even though I don't think I ever could. But I watched this TED Talk, and it's talking about like finding who you really are, who's the real you, and it was really incredible because it talks about how when you're a kid you know who you are and you're so certain of that. And then there comes a point where you know you start feeling embarrassed for the things you like, or a little bit more self-aware, and you start feeling have your influence from your peers or the people you go to school with about, like there's a right way and there's a wrong way and there's a weird way and there's a you way, and the you way isn't always, it doesn't feel right anymore. And so you start kind of questioning that. And then when you get older and have, gray hair, and have more summers behind you than you do in front of you, you go back to that place of knowing who you are, and no one can tell you different because you've lived your life. But there's that time in between where you lose that, and you're looking and searching for it constantly. And basically the TED Talks was talking about how to find that you again. And it was a really meaty TED Talk. Like, I have to go through and watch it again. But I started taking some notes, and then I called up my parents, and I'm in New York right now, and they're like, it was like 5 a.m., so my dad had just got to work. I called my mom because she usually is up around this time. Like, she's diabetic, so she'll take her shot and have like a little snack or something. But so I called my dad because my mom doesn't answer, and then like a second after, my mom calls me back, and I merged the call, and I'm talking to both of them, and I have this really like insane memory of my childhood, especially back when I was just very little. Like, I can remember things from when I was one, just moments and stuff that would happen. Oh, I've been crying a lot, so bear with me. And I just started asking my parents all these questions, all these things. Like, I have my like little notebook right here of all the things I was asking them. But some of them, I was just like, who was I as a kid, and like how was I? Was I sure of myself? And I started off the conversation with the quote from what the lady was talking about. She says, "You're not your thoughts because you think them, and you're not your feelings because who's the you that feels them. You're not what you have, you're not what you do, you're not who you love or who loves you. It has to be something underneath all that." And what is your message? And what was the 5-year-old me like? The one that didn't let anything else change who I was. And my parents, anytime you talk to them about me when I was a kid, they just, like, an instant smile gets brought to their face, and it's almost just like, oh, what's about to come next is just like, she was just very bossy. She was a leader. In any situation, she always wanted to be in charge. And there's some of the stuff they said that I was driven to be in charge. I was determined. It was my way or the highway. I wouldn't give up. I was headstrong, very confident. I would do what I set out to do. And my dad said I was manipulative, but not in the like condescending or controlling way, but I just had a way with people and getting them to do what I want. I was very sharing with my toys, except not with my brothers because they would ruin them. So I was very protective over them and the people I cared about. I was always very verbal and good at communicating, and super independent. They said at age 2, I was picking out my clothes. And when my mom would go shopping, she would bring me with me, and I would tell her what I liked and what I didn't. Um, I didn't doubt myself ever. I was very stern, and I always wanted to be understood. So if I was feeling a certain way, I would try and communicate what those feelings were and understand, or try and get people to understand where I was coming from at a very young age. This is all before I turned 6, so 5 and under. This is what we're talking about. Very caring and loving, very outgoing. I thought about others. I had lots of friends and a lot of influence. It was very natural in the spotlight, and I'd put on a show whenever the attention was on me. And my mom said I was speaking in full sentences at a year old. Back in the day, they would have voicemails, like the ones with the tapes, and I recorded our voicemail, and I said, thank you for calling the Camarinas. Please leave your name and number at the tone. Okay, bye. And that was at 1. At 1 I was able to do that. They also said I loved movies at a young age. Like weird movies though, not the movies that kids my age liked. Like I was really obsessed with movies like Beetlejuice. Like the weirder the movie, the more I was just totally captivated by it. And they said I would watch it on repeat and then move on to the next movie. Pan's Labyrinth was one of them, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And I feel like that's a lot of my big brother, Jonathan's influence. Um, my parents said, yeah, I didn't love what kids my age loved, and that my parents were just constantly in awe of me. They didn't question what I did, because they didn't want to, like, my mom said she didn't want to mess it up, because I was so sure. So she said I was very unique, and I learned very quickly on my own, and that if I did something wrong, it's like I knew I would feel convicted and try and make it right. I didn't treat people badly because I learned very quickly what it feels like, and I didn't want anyone else to feel that way. I said I was very mature for my age, and when things didn't go my way, I'd accept it and not let it ruin my day. I would learn from it and then move on quick. They said I was constantly learning. There was never things that I would repeat that I had do in the past. It was just, it had to happen that once, and then it stuck with me, which is, it's crazy. I appreciated what people did for me, and this is why things got a little bit emotional, because up until this point, I was just like, it was a fun, casual conversation. And my relationship with my parents is very interesting. And if you've seen my Draw My Life, you know my history, and I did my Draw My Life when I was definitely still processing a lot of things that have happened to me, and I wasn't necessarily at the perfect place of understanding or knowing why my parents did certain things that they did. And this is what really it got to me, because I'm asking them these questions because I'm 30 years old, and I want to go back to being who I am, who's that 5-year-old me that was so certain of herself and didn't let anyone or anything tell her what was right or wrong, but I stayed true to who I was. And, you know, I feel like a lot of these things that they told me are still very true about myself today, but I don't want to doubt anymore, you know? I don't want to doubt, and I don't want to feel weird when I feel like I'm not, like I'm doing something because I feel like it's socially acceptable, and it's not acceptable to my true self. I want to get back on that page. But I asked my parents, because my grandma died when I was 4. It's my mom's mom. And this was the turning point in my mom's life, where I feel like I lost her. This is where, even I talked to my brother, JD, and he says, after my grandma died, my mom's mom, that's when I felt like my mom died. Because she went into this downward spiral. She had just had my younger brothers. They were 6 weeks old. And my mom got really depressed. Her dad died at a young age. She didn't really have too many people in her life, and her mom was a huge part of it. And this was followed by like physical injuries and a whole bunch of other things that just my mom couldn't come back from, and that's what kind of led her to get hooked on medication and become the person that she wasn't. But that's in my Draw My Life, so I'm not going to go into that. But just know, like, leading into this conversation, there was a lot of hurt that I've had over the years because of these things, because it's hard to understand. It's hard to know someone so well and be a product of who they've taught you to be. Because my dad always said, you're your mother's daughter. And I just never understood that. Because the hurt part of me could only remember The mom that gave up. The mom who tried killing herself. The mom who stopped caring. And the older I've gotten, my mom's still here. And it's been hard to love her because she's made choices in the past where she, made us feel like we didn't know how much longer we'd have with her. And she's just been a hard person to love because you don't know when she's going to be gone. And isn't that the truth with everyone? But with my mom, when she wasn't well, it was almost a constant because didn't know if she was going to overdose on medication, if she was going to take her own life or attempt to again. It was tough. And for the longest time, that's the mom I remembered. And as I was talking to my parents and asking them all these questions, we got to my final question, which was, when my grandma died, how did I react to that? And, because my grandma was she was like my best friend. She would read to me. I was always really close with her, so anywhere she was, I was. And, my mom said that they didn't tell me when she died because it was my birthday. And my parents planned this really big pony birthday party. It was so extravagant. I still remember it to this day because it was, I had just finished up preschool. I was super popular in preschool because I was all those things my parents said I was. And I was having a pony freaking birthday. And my birthday's in July. July birthdays, anyone who has birthdays in the summer, they know good and well that no one's coming to your birthday. They're off on vacation. People are in Hawaii. They're living their life. It's just when you're out of school, there's no point. But my mom said my entire preschool class came to my birthday party because it was a freaking pony birthday party. There was an actual physical pony there, giving people pony rides and kids dressed up as cowboys and cowgirls, and it was incredible. But my grandma died on Thursday, and my birthday was on Saturday, and they didn't tell me, and my mom said that she didn't want to ruin my birthday, and that she didn't think I was, it's not that I wasn't capable of understanding, but she didn't want to take the joy from my birthday or that moment. She just wanted me to remember it for what it was. And this is what really got me, because the sacrifices my mom made to make me who I am, I couldn't even imagine. The last person, the closest person to her died. She wanted me to have a good birthday. My dad was working, and my mom put on the birthday and put on a happy face and entertained. And the truth is, my anger towards my mom wasn't because of the person I remembered her who hurt me, over the years and who she became. It was that it hurt because I was who she taught me to be. And it was so much of her. And my dad would say his family would try and tell me, don't do that, don't wear your hair like that, don't dress like that, that's what boys do. And my mom would shut it down, be like, no, that's not how you talk to my daughter. She is who she is, and you let her be who she wants to be. My mom always stuck up for me and made sure that no one affected the way that I thought about myself. She was... It's like, this is where things get confusing, and I hope I'm making sense, but in this moment, I realized so much, because my grandma dying this is the turning point in all of my brother's, my family's life, where things changed drastically. And I hate the saying that when people are like, sometimes, like, things happen for a reason, because I feel like there's a lack of responsibility in the choices that you make in having the things happen, but I don't know. It's like, if my mom hadn't been the mom that she was and raised me to be as independent and strong-willed and the leader that I was at 5 years old, I wouldn't have been able to survive who she had become from that age all the way to 19, because at 19 is when my mom, it was the worst she had ever been, and she was seeing things because she was on all these different medications, and she ended up going into diabetic shock, and she almost died, and she was in the hospital, and we were all gathered around her. And my mom had like a coming to Jesus moment, where in the past she had always tried to take her own life, but in this moment when her life was almost taken from her and she didn't have a choice in that, she changed. And she started living again. And you would think, by my mom making that decision, it would like bring healing and closure and be like, yes, I got my mom back. But there was just so much hurt and so many things that had happened in between that time. I was 5 and 19 that I still couldn't wrap my mind around. And even though I was very mature for my age and very understanding, this was still something very hard for me to grasp. And nearly 10 years later, because this is around the time that it happened, I'm you're coming to terms with things, and at a place where I just don't want my mom to feel bad for who she became, because I might not have had a perfect life. My brothers might not have either, and things might have been really hard, but my parents did their best. They really did. And the fact that I still have them in my life to tell me these things, like who I was, and be thankful for who they've made me to be, because there's not much that has changed on that list that I told you from when I was 5 years old and who I am now. You can still see a lot of those things in me. That's because they raised me to be that way. And I'm just real grateful. I started crying on the phone, and I apologized to my mom for being so angry at her, and told her I loved her and I don't want her to feel bad anymore. And that I don't blame her for who she became and the things that happened. Because even then I knew she was hurting and my mom needed help. And she felt like she didn't have anyone to turn to. And it was hard for my dad to take in, because he was trying to raise us, and my mom went from being this crazy independent person who ran our entire household to being someone who was disabled and mentally just in a place of needing help. And My older brothers, they say that the ones who got it the worst were my younger brothers because they never got to experience my mom like we did. But I feel like they got to experience a lot of who my mom was through me. And although it's not the same, I'm still so glad. So much of her is still in me. And although she's far from who she was when I was 5, she told me on the phone, sorry, I'm a mess, that she's not giving up, and that she doesn't want to, and that she wants to be there for my kids. She wants to be there for me. She wants to be their grandma. And I just feel like a lot of healing has just come from this experience, this dead dogs. And I'm just grateful that I'm in a place where I can see that, because it has totally changed the way I think about my mom. Because I used to, like I said, get mad when my dad would say, "You're your mother's daughter. You're so much like your mom." I never took it as a compliment until now because I was just so angry. I'm just so grateful that she's still alive. And there's still time. Because I am who I am today. Because at a young age, she let me be who I really was. And didn't try to make me be anything other than that. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Man. Life is crazy. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to feel how I do right now. And it's just just feels like the biggest burden has been lifted off my shoulders. Now I guess the only thing I really need to conquer and get back to from when I was a kid was when things didn't go my way, I'd accept it and not let it ruin my day. I would learn from it quick and then move on. Because that's one thing I still struggle with, and I feel like I'm getting closer at getting back to that. Alright, that's it. I'm a snotty mess. But I feel good. I feel so good.